It's a long time since I've looked at RightThe Hand, that flat earth creator who was totally bitch made when he failed to turn up to a live stream debate. He's back. He's got a new fail. He doesn't understand clouds. A whole bunch of people who have not got their heads up in the clouds are my wonderful patrons. To all my patrons, including new patrons Jason Blackford, Colin Field, Scott Emmett O'Donnell, Irish Dublin, Bob Yake and Kiri Mack, and my latest patron, Brainery. Thank you all so very much. It never ceases to amaze me how flat earthers can get themselves all tied up in terrible knots over things that are really quite straightforward and very, very well understood. I will RightThe Hand. Roll VT.
Alright, RightThe Hand here. This is a cloud and it's raining. Okay, now they're going to tell you that this is water.
Yes, this is water.
And the cloud is water.
Yes, the cloud is water.
It's like water vapor.
Look, you've got an awful lot of water there. You've got water in the sea, you've got water vapour in the air, you've got the condensed water making the clouds, and you've got the water falling out the sky as rain. There's water, a shed load of it.
And then it's condensing.
You haven't been talking to Multi Tom Tom, have you? Because he doesn't understand the water cycle either.
Right, or whatever the hell it's... So let's go see what they say. I don't know, let's get this official.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's go and see what they have to say.
Alright, so they're going to tell you heat from the sun turns moisture, water, from plants and leaves as well as ocean. So it turns water and into water vapor, a gas, which disappears into the air. So the gas disappears. This vapor rises and cools. And then it changes into tiny droplets of water, which form clouds.
Well, I'm glad we got that sorted. Enough time for a swift half then.
So, but it's the droplet of water, no matter how small it is, will fall in the air, right? Because water, water doesn't float in air by their standard, right?
Oh, we're really going to have to do this.
So that's not going to work. So we got to figure out something better. Okay, so if you have this, how can you get this something denser, quote unquote, to float?
Have you ever been in a swimming pool?
In something that's like, where else in water does something like this happen? Where something that we think should sink, right, doesn't.
Bread, apples, very small rocks, cider, a great gravy, cherries, mud, churches, lead, a duck.
Alright, so ice will float in water. Now, I don't care why.
And I suspect you don't know why either.
They'll tell you there's air in it, but whatever.
There's air in it.
Where ice floats, so you can make ice smaller and it'll float.
Yeah, it's a good job someone made this piece of ice quite small so it could float, isn't it?
So, if you think about a cloud as not water, but it's ice, it's very small little pieces of ice, and they're floating at the top of water, basically.
Hold on. You've got a problem with very tiny droplets of water floating around in the air, but you've got no problem with little bits of ice floating around on water that's in the air. Does anyone see a problem with this?
And this is also why the water doesn't all come down at once, because the ice is melting. That's why it's droplets.
So now you're saying you've got chunks of ice up there melting and dripping. So why do the drips fall, but the chunks of ice don't?
So if you think of air as water, right? You have liquid water and then you have fluid water, right? Like air, which is it's...
Hold on. Liquid water and fluid water. Nurse!
The same thing, just a different state, but don't think bouncing particles.
Oh.
So as you get the ice bits, because the higher you go, the colder it gets. So why would it turn to water when it's going up higher and getting colder?
Actually, right. The water vapour carries heat up there.
Okay, with the pressure, that doesn't make sense. It would turn to ice, right? So I think it's actually fine, grainy little ice that's floating at the top of the water.
Again, you've got this problem. You can't conceive of water droplets or molecules floating around, and yet you have no problem with bits of ice floating on water that's up in the sky. Where's that water then?
And then as the ice, any friction will melt it and it starts dripping. Because you can't...
So now you've got these pieces of ice that are melting due to friction, and the drips are falling. So a smaller drip falls, but the larger piece of ice stays up there. What a maroon.
Think about condensation. Have you ever seen condensation water, a cloud? Clouds don't happen in any other capacity except for the sky, where water gathers in and of itself and floats.
Have you never been outside when the weather conditions are just right and you get fog? That is basically exactly the same as being in a cloud.
Right? That doesn't make sense. We don't see that.
Yodelady, 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 oh, yodelady, oh, yodelady, oh, pom pom pom, yodelady, yodelady, yodelady. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't afford the copyright fee.
But now ice will melt, and it'll melt slowly, or depending on if a heat wave comes in, it can melt very rapidly, you know.
Yeah, what if the sun was particularly low that day?
You had this big glacier of fine sand-like ice that has been suspended because it's, the updrafts can picture a particle so small it won't fall in a fluid.
So now we got a glacier of small particulate ice up there, but you had a problem with molecules of water vapour being up there.
Right? This is why you can't look at air as bouncing particles. It is a fluid that something can float on.
Well, I suggest you get an ice cube from the freezer, cut it up into really tiny bits, and see if you can float it in mid-air.
And that's what weight is. Weight will always be the difference of the medium and the object. So you can have if you have an object, if you had a lead ball, cut it in half, it'll still sink to the floor. Cut it in half, cut it in half. How many times do you think before you have such a fine particulate of lead, it will be airborne?
Well, I would say 0.1 to 0.7 microns. Have you not heard of the issues of lead in the atmosphere from leaded petrol? That's gasoline in foreign. If you're planning on cutting your balls up that small, you're going to need a very sharp knife.
Right? So you can do the same thing with ice. I think ice can become airborne, and as that happens, the higher it goes, it starts crunching down, and then it kind of floats. It floats at the top of the fluid that is air, and then comes back down.
Hey up, lad. I reckon thou needs to get this in onto Amazon and order this book. Well, thanks, Wright, for making a total pig's ear of the water cycle. Now we've got blinking glaciers floating around in water up in the sky because water vapour apparently won't. That's despite the fact that water vapour is actually less dense than the atmosphere. You must be a particularly smelly boy who has never had a shower, otherwise you will have noticed all the drips of water that have condensed on the walls of your bathroom when you shower. How did it get there? I think, you collector of dingleberries, you need to go back to the drawing board and try again. Until next time, stay sensible.
Shut up and sit down.